Before there were atoms, before there were stars, before there were planets, chemistry, or life, there was light. Not light as we usually imagine it. Not sunlight pouring through space or photons reflecting off surfaces, but radiation itself. Energy moving freely through a universe that had not yet settled into structure. In the earliest moments after the universe began, matter as we know it could not exist. Temperatures were too high. Any attempt for particles to bind together was immediately undone by energy. The universe was dense, hot, and dominated by radiation. Light was not something moving through space, it was what space was filled with. Light came first. This idea feels counterintuitive, because in everyday life we treat light as secondary. We turn it on, we block it, we measure it. But on cosmic scales, light is not a byproduct of things. It is part of the foundation that allows things to exist at all. For hundreds of thousands of years after the beginning, there were no atoms. Electrons could not remain bound to nuclei. Space was opaque, filled with a glowing plasma. Photons collided constantly with charged particles, unable to travel freely. The universe was bright, but there was nothing to see. Then, as the universe expanded and cooled, a quiet transition occurred. Electrons slowed enough to bind to nuclei. Atoms formed. For the first time, light was no longer trapped. Photons began to travel long distances without interruption. The universe became transparent. Those photons are still traveling today. We detect them as the cosmic microwave background, a faint glow coming from every direction in the sky. It is the oldest light we can observe, a relic from a time before stars, before galaxies, before planets. This ancient light tells us something profound. Light is not merely a messenger from the universe. It is a witness to its earliest structure. From the beginning, light and space were inseparable. The expansion of the universe is not objects flying through space. It is space itself stretching. Light moves through this expanding space, and its behavior reveals how space and time are connected. The speed of light is not an arbitrary number. It is not simply a property of photons. It is a fundamental feature of space-time itself. This is why nothing with mass can reach or exceed the speed of light. Not because light is unusually fast, but because reality is structured in such a way that this speed defines the maximum rate at which cause and effect can propagate. Light is not racing through space. Space is limiting how quickly anything can happen. When we say the speed of light is constant, we are really saying that space-time has a built-in scale, a conversion factor between distance and time. Light reveals that scale. This realization forced physics to abandon the idea of absolute space and absolute time. Events that appear simultaneous to one observer are not simultaneous to another. Lengths contract, clocks slow. None of this happens because objects behave strangely. It happens because reality must preserve the role of light as the ultimate limit. If light sets the scale, then motion itself becomes relative. There is no universal clock ticking in the background, no single timeline shared by the entire universe. There is only space-time and light tracing its structure. Even mass fits into this framework. Energy and matter are interchangeable, related by the square of the speed of light. This is not about explosions or power. It is about equivalence. Mass is energy constrained by light's rules. Without light, the distinction between time and space collapses. Without light, there is no way to define distance or duration in a meaningful way. Light gives reality its measurable structure. This is why light comes first, not only historically, but conceptually. Before there were things, there were limits. Before there were objects, there were rules. Light defines those rules. It sets the maximum speed of information. It determines which events can influence which others. It shapes causality itself. A universe without light would not simply be dark. It would be undefined. Once light exists, everything else must obey it. Stars form but their gravity propagates at the speed of light. Galaxies evolve, but signals between them are delayed by light. Even the expansion of the universe is revealed to us only through light that left distant regions long ago. Light does not just illuminate reality, it constrains it. By the time matter begins to assemble into atoms, molecules, and eventually stars, light has already written the rules they must follow. Nothing that forms later can ignore those rules. No matter how massive, no matter how energetic, once light exists, it does more than illuminate the universe. It draws boundaries. Every interaction, every influence, every connection between events is limited by how fast information can travel, and that limit is set by light. Not because light is special, but because space-time itself enforces it. This means reality is not a single, unified stage where everything happens at once. Reality is local, fragmented, divided into regions that can and cannot affect one another. Imagine an event happening somewhere in the universe. A star explodes, a particle decays, a signal is sent. That event does not instantly become part of all reality. Its influence spreads outward at a finite speed. Until that influence arrives, other regions remain unaware that it ever happened. Light defines the boundary of awareness. Physicists describe this using the idea of a light cone. From any event, there is a region of space-time that can be affected by it, and a region that can never be affected, no matter how long you wait. The surface of this boundary is traced by light itself. Events outside your light cone are not just far away, they are causally disconnected. They cannot influence you. They are, in a meaningful physical sense, not part of your present reality. This is not a technological limitation. It is not something we will overcome with faster machines. It is built into the structure of the universe. Even gravity obeys this rule. Changes in a gravitational field do not propagate instantly. When massive objects move, the information about that motion travels outward at the speed of light. The universe enforces patience. This has consequences that are subtle but profound. There is no universal now, no single moment shared by the entire cosmos. What you call the present depends on where you are and how you are moving. Two observers in relative motion will disagree about which events are happening at the same time. Neither is wrong. Simultaneity itself depends on light. If information cannot travel faster than light, then the ordering of distant events is not absolute. The universe does not provide a master clock. It provides local clocks, each ticking along its own path through space-time. This forces us to abandon the idea of a rigid, objective reality, unfolding everywhere at once. Reality unfolds locally, stitched together by signals that obey light's limit. Distance and time are not independent. They are linked by light. Change one, and the other responds. Move faster, and time slows. Lengths contract along the direction of motion. These effects are not illusions. They are consequences of preserving light as the maximum speed of influence. Nothing with mass can reach the speed of light, because doing so would require infinite energy. As an object accelerates, it does not simply move faster. Its resistance to further acceleration increases. Time slows for it. Space compresses along its path. Light remains unreachable not because it is fast, but because it defines the structure everything else must fit within. Light sets the edge of the possible. This also means that information itself is constrained. You cannot know about an event until light from that event reaches you. Awareness is always delayed. Observation is always looking backward in time. When you see the sun, you are seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. If something were to happen to the sun right now, you would not know immediately. For 8 minutes, it would appear unchanged. On human scales, this delay seems trivial. On cosmic scales, it dominates everything. When we observe distant stars, we are looking years into the past. When we observe distant galaxies, we are looking millions or billions of years into the past. The most distant objects we can see appear as they were when the universe was young. Our picture of the universe is not a snapshot. It is a historical record. Light turns space into time. Distance becomes history. Because of this, there are limits to what can be known. Some regions of the universe are permanently beyond our reach. Their light has not had enough time to reach us, and may never do so. As the universe expands, space itself stretches. Some regions are carried away faster than light can cross the growing distance. Horizons form. Beyond them, events remain forever inaccessible. These regions are not destroyed. They simply cannot communicate with us. Light draws the horizon. Everything beyond it exists, but cannot affect us. It is part of the universe, but not part of our observable reality. Even within our observable universe, light enforces isolation. Galaxies evolve independently. Stars live and die without regard for distant regions. If civilizations exist, they are separated not only by distance, but by time delays that make coordination nearly impossible. The universe does not encourage large-scale connection. It fragments reality into local neighborhoods bound by light. This fragmentation explains much of the universe's quietness, not because it is empty, but because it is structured to limit interaction. Light limits everything, and in doing so, it makes everything else possible. Everything we know about the universe arrives to us on a beam of light. This is not poetry. It is a physical constraint. No information reaches us unless it travels at or below the speed of light. No event becomes part of our experience until light, or something obeying the same limit, carries its influence to us. This means reality, as we experience it, is not the totality of what exists. It is the totality of what can reach us. We never see objects as they are now. We see them as they were when their light began its journey. Observation is always delayed. Awareness is always retrospective. When you look across a room, you are seeing the past by a fraction of a second. When you look at the moon, you are seeing it as it was more than a second ago. When you look at the sun, you are seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. When you look at distant galaxies, you are seeing events that occurred long before Earth formed. The universe we observe is a museum of light. Every star, every galaxy, every cloud of gas is displayed not as it is, but as it was. The farther away it lies, the deeper into the past we see. Distance becomes time. Space becomes history. Light does not merely show us the universe. It edits it. Entire eras are visible only because light from those times has reached us. Entire regions remain invisible because their light has not. Our picture of the universe is incomplete by design. This incompleteness is not a failure of technology. It is a feature of space-time. There is no way to observe the universe as it is everywhere at once. There is no global present. There is only a collection of overlapping pasts stitched together by light. When astronomers construct a map of the cosmos, they are assembling fragments from different times. Nearby objects represent recent history. Distant objects represent ancient history. The universe we see has no single age. Light enforces this layered reality. Without light, there would be no way to order events across distance, no way to define before and after. Light provides the structure that allows causality to exist beyond a single point. This is why reality depends on light, not philosophically, but operationally. To exist, in a physical sense, is to be able to interact, to influence, or be influenced. Light defines the boundary of that interaction. A thing that cannot interact in any way is indistinguishable from non-existence. Objects are defined by how they exchange energy and information. They absorb light, emit light, reflect light, scatter light. Without light, matter would have no way to announce its presence. Even the structure of matter depends on light. Electromagnetic forces, carried by photons, hold atoms together. Chemistry is an expression of light-mediated interactions. The stability of matter is inseparable from radiation. Stars exist because light pushes outward while gravity pulls inward. Their long lives depend on a balance mediated by radiation. Planets evolve under constant illumination. Life depends on energy delivered by light from a star. Light is woven into structure at every scale. This also means that the universe we experience is conditional. What is real for us depends on what can connect to us. Regions beyond our cosmic horizon may exist, but they cannot influence us. They are causally disconnected. For us, reality ends at the horizon. This does not mean the universe is small. It means reality is local. As time passes, this locality becomes more pronounced. The expansion of the universe carries distant regions away. Light from them stretches, reddens, and fades. Eventually, it disappears beyond detection. In the far future, observers may see only their local group of galaxies. Everything else will lie beyond the horizon, not destroyed, but unreachable. The observable universe will shrink. Reality will narrow. This narrowing emphasizes something important. Reality is not fixed. It evolves as light determines what can remain connected. What exists for an observer depends on when and where that observer is. Awareness itself is local and temporary. If intelligence arises elsewhere in the universe, it experiences a different reality. Its observable universe is shaped by its own horizon. Its past and future differ from ours. There is no single cosmic perspective that unites all viewpoints. Light prevents it. This fragmentation explains why the universe feels vast and quiet, not because it lacks content, but because it limits connection. Each region evolves largely on its own. Yet within this limitation, light creates meaning. Because connection is limited, what remains connected becomes significant. Because awareness is local, it becomes precious. Because information is constrained, knowledge matters. A universe where everything instantly influenced everything else would be chaotic and meaningless. A universe where nothing could influence anything would be empty. Light creates the balance. It allows enough connection for structure and complexity to form, but enough limitation for order to persist. Life depends on energy gradients carried by light. Intelligence depends on information accumulated over time. Culture depends on communication within bounded regions. All of this exists because light defines a finite speed for influence. If light were infinite in speed, causality would collapse. If light were much slower, complexity might never arise. Its value is not arbitrary. It allows structure without paradox. Reality is not everything that exists. Reality is everything that can matter to something else. Light decides what matters. It decides what can be known, what can be influenced, what can be remembered, what can endure. When we say light defines reality, we are not elevating light above all else. We are recognizing that limits create structure, and structure makes meaning possible. The universe did not choose light, but once light existed, everything else had to obey it. Stars form within its limits. Galaxies evolve within its limits. Life emerges within its limits. Awareness thinks within its limits, and so do we. We live inside a reality shaped by light, a reality that is delayed, partial, and local, but also coherent, structured, and knowable. Every question we ask about the universe is filtered through this constraint. Every answer arrives late. Every observation is a message from the past. Yet within these limits, understanding is possible. Light does not show us everything, but it shows us enough to know where we came from, enough to know how the universe began, enough to know that reality has rules, and enough to know that those rules allowed, at least once, for matter to become aware of itself. That awareness exists here, now, within a narrow cone of light. What lies beyond may exist. What lies ahead may emerge. But what matters to us is what can be reached. Reality is not infinite. Reality is not immediate. Reality is what light allows.